In this video, I want to show you a little bit of what it's like when you have a wheelchair and you still want to sew or have a lot of sewing to do. Now, first of all, this is a Drive Blue Streak wheelchair. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. It's a great wheelchair. Mine is because I have an injury that hopefully I'll be getting over. So it's not a transport chair, although it can be if I take the leg rests off. The arms lift up like that, so you can get it closer to a desk. The leg rests, I have the elevated ones to keep my left leg up, but you can also get it with straight leg rests, and then it's not as long. But the reason I'm mentioning it, drivemedical.com, if you want to look at them, I'm mentioning it because the type that I have with the elevated leg rests makes the overall chair about 42 inches long. Now, there's several videos that kind of show my apartment and my house and everything. I have what's called a walk-in kitchen with one L-shaped counter, a stove, a refrigerator, cabinets. I can't turn this around in the kitchen. And that's because the average kitchen is not as big as they used to be, and not because of the wheelchair. So navigating through a home becomes a whole new thing. So there's the chair, and I have to use it like that with one leg extension set up to hold my left leg, and the other one is kind of out of the way. Now, I had said that with sewing, the foot pedal and the cords, I was trying to use my machines on smaller tables or cabinets, and I kept the foot pedalings down there, and I kept running into a problem of the cords getting wrapped up either in the leg extension or the wheel. So now I have a power strip over there, and you'll have to excuse, these are temporary boxes. I have a power strip over there, and I'm keeping a yardstick near me because that way I can just use the yardstick to turn the power strip off. This is my Singer 237 from Vermont, and they were made between 1968 and 1972. Now, it's similar to the Modern Brother, but I like the old, mostly metal machines. The only thing plastic on these is this upper lid. Everything else, oh no, wait a minute, this is plastic too, the face plate, but this is metal. So it's just the face plate and the top. And I just like the old machines. Now, the reason this is a good machine for me is because it's got both zigzag and straight stitch. It's just a wonderful, simple, easy machine. I love 237s. And I have had them in the treadle before. This is one of the few 1960s machines that can be put into a treadle. They were sold as both electric and treadle. But as you can see, here is the quilt I've been working on, and I have finished quilting in one direction. I have now marked it in going in the other direction. And unfortunately, my little foray into treadling again yesterday has me in pain today, which is not at all surprising. Now, just to show you how this works. So there is anybody's left leg on the leg extension. I do have the ability to use a foot pedal, but as you can already see, I'm like fighting this to get over to the foot pedal. So as I pull in under the chair, I'm going to have to kick that foot pedal over here and then push it back out of the way when I'm done. This is a 3.5 foot by 2.5 foot kitchen table, and just your average, you know, medium to small size kitchen table. And this particular chair, see what happens is my knee hits it, because my table has a piece of wood that comes down. It's a beautiful old antique wood table, but that's as far as I can get. And these are the little things you run into. I've been using this table for quilting for years, and all of a sudden I'm bumping into the table with my knee that has to be not bumped into. So here it is. This is an alternative, though, to using a treadle or a hand crank. Now, a hand crank is obviously easier to move around, and the Spartan only weighs 25 pounds. This weighs at least 30 with that wooden base. But Miller from Treadle-On made a comment that is true. Once you get a heavy machine put somewhere, you don't really have to be moving it around. Now, the one thing you want to make sure of is that if you use a table like this, that you have a good sturdy table, because this machine weighs 30 pounds. So I have it about 2 inches, almost 3 inches back from the edge, trying to get closer to the center of the table so that the whole thing doesn't flip over on top of you. You would especially have to be careful of any portable type tables that are just not heavy oak. This is a heavy oak table, so the chances of it flipping are less than a portable particle board or laminated table. So now, because I need to do this, I'm actually going to take my leg off the leg rest, and once I get in there, I can put it back on there. And this brings me right to the machine. I didn't lift up that arm right there, but this brings me right to the machine. I put a very inexpensive plastic summer tablecloth, I think it was $1 at CVS, on the table, but that's to keep the quilts clean. I have a pillowcase on the wall also to keep the quilts clean as they go over the back. And so now, I forgot the tripod, and this is part of the adventure in all of a sudden being in a wheelchair, because today, what happens when I overdo it like I did yesterday by using the treadle? So see, I'm kicking that foot pedal over this way. Now my legs hurt. So now I'm not a happy camper, and now I'm very grateful that I have a wheelchair, because some days you need them and some days you don't with my particular polyneuropathy. Now, if you're in a wheelchair all the time, or you don't have use of your legs, an alternative that someone had mentioned is to take the power strip for plugging things in and mount it right to your table, and then bring that foot pedal up here and use your hand to run the machine. So that would be similar to a hand crank, and probably I would end up using a hand crank as opposed to doing that. But if you have an electric machine and you don't own a hand crank, I just got to find the foot pedal under there. Now I'm holding the camera, so I can't really show you how I would do this because I forgot the tripod for the camera. But I'm going to start the machine, and this is how I can work all the time in the wheelchair. Those back threads, when I'm not holding the camera, I can do what I was doing with the treadle, and I can just keep smoothing this and pushing it back and go in a straight line. So in that case, an electric, being able to use the foot pedal is an advantage over a hand crank, and on days when you can't use your legs, an obvious advantage over a treadle. And using just your kitchen table this way, or using a table like this for your sewing table, I mean, maybe you already have a kitchen table and you don't need to do this. What you can do instead is to buy a kitchen table and have it be your sewing table. And like I said, I keep a yardstick here to turn off the machine. And this machine, the light, you know, you want to do that again? I hate to say it, it's fun. It's fun. My dog and I have a blast because now she chases me around the house when I'm in my wheelchair. But this is an easy way to shut off the power to your machine. And this particular machine, the light switch is broken. So the only way for me to shut it off is to shut it off by the power. But you can see, so even with a wheelchair and all the things that go with that, if you find a table where the legs are wide enough apart, you can fit. I think this Drive Blue Streak wheelchair is similar to a lot of the lower priced wheelchairs. This is not an electric, it's not made for street use, and it's also not made for being in a car or a wheelchair van. It's really an injury type wheelchair that you use when you need it. But this type of wheelchair fits with this type of a sewing table extremely well, and even though I'm used to standing and treadling, this is about second best to that, where once I'm just sewing, both of my hands can be used here and I can just do what I have to do and not worry about anything really. And it gives, I'm still using my right ankle with the foot pedal, but not nearly as much as I would be with the treadle. So this is my setup for quilting at a kitchen table when I'm in a wheelchair.